Okay. So we talked about this yesterday a little bit. The college football playoffs are here. The rankings are here, at least. Playoffs aren't here yet. Getting ahead of myself. Now, we all know that these rankings are bullshit. And these top four right here aren't going to be the final four. And it's dumb to do these rankings at week 10, but it gives us something to talk about. I had an interesting take that I presented to you, Cricket. Listen to this scenario. We're going to go through some scenarios of how can this whole thing play out. So the most interesting one that came to my mind was this. Let's say we have the Big Ten. First of all, I want to tease something. I think the Big Ten might get left out. Woo! I know that sounds crazy. I think the Big Ten might get left out, but we'll get into that later. Okay, let's say you got an undefeated Big Ten team. They're in. They're in the playoffs. You got an undefeated Florida State team. They're in.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You have an undefeated, let's say Washington goes undefeated and wins the Pac-12.
Okay.
They're in. So now you got that fourth spot. What happens if Alabama rolls in and beats Georgia in the SEC championship? So you got a one-loss Alabama team beats Georgia. Obviously, because of that, they would get in over Georgia, correct?
You would think.
Supposed
to. You're supposed to have your metric. They got the conference championship, all that's supposed to matter more. So yeah, theoretically, yeah, they I don't see how you keep them out.
So there's your four. But what happens if Texas wins out, gets the revenge against Oklahoma? Sorry, Patriot 4165. And you got a one-loss Texas team, who, by the way, beat Alabama at Alabama. What do you do in that spot? Who gets in?
I think you got to put Texas in. I mean, I think you have to. They went to your house. You both got one loss. You both got a conference championship. You had a head-to-head match where they played you in your house, won a neutral site game. They played you in your house. They beat you by 10 points. To me, it would be absolutely – it would be such a robbery to Texas if they kept Texas out and put Alabama in. If they both had identical records, both got conference championships, but you played head-to-head and they beat you like a drum in your own house, and they're going to put you in over them, that would be – I'm just glad it's the last year of the 14 playoff because I got a feeling they're going to get it wrong this year, and then we won't have to worry about it anymore.
I think you're wrong. I think Alabama should get in that scenario.
How?
So
How?
Here it is. Texas has the most impressive win so far this season, going in and beating Alabama. Would you disagree with that? That's probably the most impressive.
I'll agree with Sark on that.
Yeah, so that's the most impressive win. If Alabama goes and beats Georgia, that immediately is the most impressive win of the season because Georgia, I don't know if you know this, Georgia hasn't lost in a little bit. They're kind of the back-to-back defending champs. So now you would have Alabama. It'd be like, okay, cute. You had a better win, but now we have a better win than you, and it's a different time of the year. I think Alabama gets in. And also, there's no way in hell these corrupt, greedy commissioners and board members are going to not have an SEC team in there.
I mean, most of the time you shouldn't not. You shouldn't have to worry about it. Most of the time, the SEC champion, one loss, should be in. But in this scenario, if you've got Alabama and Texas, that's the team you're trying to decide who's going to get in. One of those two teams, and you both got identical records. You both got conference championship. All that shit. They beat you heads up, man. We played the game. It ain't like we can sit here and run it through an AI simulator and all this different stuff. You played the game in your house, and they beat you convincingly.
That was week 2, Cricket. A lot of things changed.
I don't give a shit if it was. I don't care. It was this season. It wasn't last year's bowl season. It wasn't that. It was this year. This year, all the same guys on the roster, all that same year, and they beat you in your house heads up. That'd be. You're probably right. They probably put Alabama's ass in there. They probably would. But I'm sorry. I think that would be robbery for the Texas.
You're living in the past, Cricket. Listen, the Cougars haven't lost in November yet. All right. This is the mindset you got to have. What have you done for me lately? Actually, that's the biggest thing is what have you done for me lately? And that's people are just so, especially nowadays, so wrapped up in the moment. Alabama beating Georgia would be the biggest talk. It doesn't matter what happens that weekend. That's the biggest thing in college football.
What happens if this happens, man? Let's say LSU sitting there at 14. They go to Alabama on the road this week. They get one of them wins. They get one of them big wins at Alabama. And then let's just say hypothetically, this is what we're doing. We're playing this game. You want to play this fucking game? Let's play this game. LSU runs the table, beats Georgia in the SEC championship, beats Alabama. Yeah, guys, I know it's probably not going to happen. Let's just say they do for the sake of argument, though. What LSU runs the table? SEC champion. They got 2 losses there, sitting there. I mean, they're SEC champion. Let's just say it plays out to where the other Big 12 conference, whatever, they wind up with 2 losses. Let's say Texas loses this weekend or whatever to Kansas State and then winds up winning the Big 12, or Kansas State wins this weekend, runs to the championship, they wind up winning it, whatever. They still have 2 losses. So you put LSU or a 2-loss Texas, a 2-loss LSU team that's SEC champion, or a 2-loss Texas team that's a Big 12 champion?
Oh, if you're talking 2 losses, I would guess the SEC team wins that one.
Probably right. It would be tough. It would be the overall body of work.
SEC has home field advantage in these debates.
You beat that's like you beat Alabama and Georgia. That's what I was talking about LSU last year. It's kind of the same scenario. They beat Alabama. They wound up getting the SEC championship, and we didn't think they had a prayer against Georgia. Nobody did. They didn't. But if they would have beaten Georgia, it was like, how do you keep them out? They got wins over Alabama and Georgia. They'll set up for Ohio State to lose to Michigan, and then, well, that's up to you, man. That's up to your boys. They can't really set you up to lose. You got to play the game and go out there. All you got to do, all Ohio State has to do is win out. Win the next game in front of you, man. You win out, you're there. As the number 1 seed, probably.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they've already got you number 1 right now. They
are
who we thought they were.
It usually doesn't bode well for that team that ranked number 1 in the first playoff rankings of the year. And traditionally hadn't worked out very well.
Pistons wants to know if it's that time of the month for you.
Yep, it is. It is. I got my tampons, though. Fuck you, Dustin.
What about this scenario, Cricket? What about this scenario? Because I can make the argument that the Big Ten might get left or should get left out if the things play out a certain way. So we'll just go ahead and say Florida State, because it's the most likely team to make the playoff at this point is Florida State. Would you disagree with me?
No, I agree with you.
They're because they're undefeated, and their path to get to the playoffs is
they're probably going to be close to 3 touchdown favorites in every game they play the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we'll say Florida State's in. Let's say the SEC team is in. Let's say it's Georgia, or it doesn't matter who. SEC's in. SEC champs in. Okay. So you got those 2 spots. Now you got 2 spots for the 3 remaining teams. You'll have a 1-loss Big 12 champ, a 1-loss Pac-12 champ, and a 1-loss Big 10 champ. So if saying that something happens, it gets funky here, that the Big 10 ends up getting a loss, but goes on and wins. Well, the 1-loss Pac-12 champ will probably be Oregon. So you'd have Oregon. Then you have either Texas or Oklahoma as your 1-loss Big 12 champ. And then you got either Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State, whoever it ends up being. I'd argue, if you look at it, I think everyone's just blowing smoke and hyping up the Big. I don't think the Big 10's that good. I think the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are way more impressive.
I agree 100%. I think the conferences top to bottom are better. I think the teams in those conferences top to bottom are better. I mean, you look at the Big 10, yeah, they got the big 3 up there, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. But what do you really have beyond that in that entire conference? I mean, Wisconsin's trash. Michigan State's trash. Iowa's trash. Purdue, Northwestern, Illinois, Minnesota. Name me another team outside of those 3 that is even remotely close to anything in college football. None of those teams they're just bad, man. They're just bad. So I think the strength of schedule, then they're, other than Ohio State, I'll give Ohio State credit. They go out, they play Notre Dame, out of conference. Ohio State's not afraid to play out of conference. They did play Texas a couple years ago. Like, Ohio State will go play you. They ain't afraid to. Michigan and Penn State, you got to start scheduling somebody, man. Or don't lose a single game. Don't even leave it in doubt, because if you lose a game at all, if one of those 2 teams, Penn State's obviously lost to Ohio State. You can live with that. You can survive that. But Michigan, with your schedule, you lose one game, I don't care who it's to. You don't belong in the playoff.
Derpy, first of all, I love that logo you have. The Batman logo there, the little that's dope.
That is really dope, man. That's old school. I like that.
That is awesome. Because Florida State and Washington are TCU in a nutshell. I think I get what you're saying, and they probably get rolled, but I think they're better than what TCU. I mean, Washington and Florida State would both put up points in a championship game against Georgia. I mean, it wouldn't be like an ass whooping like it was last year.
Florida State.
Not saying they would win. Not saying they wouldn't lose by double digits, but it wouldn't be like a 40-plus point blowout.
No, they're not going to get beat 65-7 in the national.
I also disagree with you here. You said you don't think the SEC is good. It's biased to the SEC. Listen, the SEC is good. All right. It does get way overhyped, and it gets annoying sometimes when there is an SEC bias. I agree that there is a bias, but the SEC is damn good at football. I mean,
the best. Just the best.
Outside the Cougars, they're the best.
Just is what it is, man. Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
it is what it is. Maybe not top to bottom. There's a lot of
they have a team that hasn't lost in like 3 years.
That's what I'm saying. It maybe not top to bottom, like maybe all the way down to the Vandies and stuff like that. Maybe, there are conferences I think that are more complete in the SEC. But as far as the top tier goes, and you can pretty much thank Alabama and Georgia for that of late. But yeah, I mean, one of those two teams is always going to be in the mix, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And TCU bounced Michigan last year. That's the other thing. The Big Ten seems to always freaking choke in these spots too when they get in there. At least I should say Michigan always seems to. These damn good. Look at Tennessee sitting fourth in the East.
I'm telling you, man, that's what I'm saying. Like we're not we're not a great football team, but we're not a bad football team. We're a lot of teams that we play middle tier, bottom half of their conference, any conference out there. Like we're going to be able to compete in those games and probably, but in the SEC, dude, it's just we're the only team outside the SEC East that also has to play Alabama every single year. Protected rivalry shit. I can't wait till next year they get rid of that shit.
You scared, dude?
Scared to play scared, just tired of taking it. Not scared, just over it. It happens. I'm a realist Tennessee fan. I'm a very realistic Tennessee fan, man. I'm just tired of it.
So just how we're talking about there's bias and how that, like, if push came to shove, they're not leaving the SEC school out of the playoff. Do you think there might be a little bit of a bias this year and do everything they can to get a Pac-12 team in there because it's the last year?
People are going to say
it's a good story. It's a good story.
Yeah, people are going to say that, and I think they act like it's a bias, but I don't think it is. I think the Pac-12 is just one of the better conferences throughout with the top teams right there. I think they've got the most complete conference of anybody. I really do. As far as top to bottom teams right there that can go and play, and I love watching that conference. That conference kind of beats each other up because even the bottom, the Stanfords and the Cals have been competing with some of these higher level teams. And you could, man. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Watch, throughout this whole conference, you got to go every week on the road. We know crazy things happen, Pac-12 late night and all that stuff. These road atmospheres and stuff out there, I think the Pac-12 deserve. If it's a one-loss team, one loss or less, and you win that conference, you should be in the playoff. And I don't think there should be any bias or anything put toward it. I think it's because you're one of the top 4 teams in the country.
I think it's going to be Oregon. I think Oregon's going to get it done. Oregon's defense is not being talked about. They're allowing 13 points per game.
That's crazy.
Their defense might be as good. Yeah, their defense might be better than their offense, and no one's talking about it.
I bet they love that. Dan Lanning, everybody got to remember, Dan Lanning is a defensive-minded head coach. He was Georgia's defensive coordinator when they hired him out there at Oregon. So he's a defensive-minded guy. It's his philosophy and all that stuff. He just so happens to have studs on the offense. And Bo Nix is having his best season of his career. Bucky Irving's a beast. I mean, they got players on that offense, but Dan Lanning wants to play defense, man, and he's doing it.
Think about Oregon's resume if they went out. So they would avenge their loss, which the committee likes to see. You can make the statement of we beat everyone on our schedule. Yeah, we lost once, but we came back and avenged it. So you would have a win over UW. You'd be a Pac-12 champ. You went to Utah, and you didn't just and you can say, well, Utah's down this year. Okay, Utah hadn't lost a game. They're 18-game home winning streak. Well, down to what expectations?
They're hurt. They're banged up.
Yeah, they're not bad. They just aren't national title contenders.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But you still went into their house where they were on an 18-game winning streak
and
at home and beat the brakes off them, man. You just slapped them upside the head, right?
Didn't even let them score a touchdown.
Didn't let them. So you'd have a win over that, win over Utah. You'd have a win over USC. USC isn't good, but it's still USC.
Yeah. So with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, you would have a win against Oregon State, which is another ranked school right now. They were the first ones to put a loss to Colorado, and they beat the Cougs. That's impressive.
And if they, at this point, they will have avenged their, I assume if it plays out the way we think, that they'll meet Washington in Vegas for that Pac-12 title. If they're still with one loss, that means they avenged their other loss and they beat them. And depending on how they do it, is it last second or something like that? No, I don't think so. I think if they play Washington, I think they're going to beat the brakes off of them.
Yeah, I think they're going to win by 2 scores. I think
I
they
do
win
too.
by 2 scores.
I do too. And if you avenge that loss, I'm just like, hey, you had to go to there. I mean, that loss is not a bad loss. You got to go in what's considered a rivalry game, and you go on the road in conference to play them. I mean, that's not a bad loss. Lose by 3 points right there.
Yeah, Super James. I know the Colorado win means nothing now.
It
I know.
means
That
means
the joke.
nothing. It
That
means
was
nothing.
the
But
joke.
it was fun for us to cash those tickets. We told everybody all in Colorado plus 21. Oregon just never in doubt, man.
You
Never
know what might hurt the Ducks though is the fact that they couldn't cover against the Cougs. Cougs still covered the game because that's what we do.
Late.
When we're dogs, we cover. Favorites, just bet us against the money line. Take the money line. Take the plus money.
I've done that a couple of times this year. It's worked out for me. I bet against y'all when you play the Arizona teams, man.
Oh God, we usually whoop up on them too.
I've cashed both those dog tickets this year, man. Sorry.
Yeah, it hurts. Buku's in the chat. What up, buddy?
Hey,
what up? Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. This college football stuff. It's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be crazy when your Cougs and my Vols get matched up in one of these bowl games somewhere with these crazy. I'm looking at it. I'm staring at it. I'm like, this could happen. This could happen here.
They usually pair us up with a fucking Big Ten school because of the stupid way the bowl system works.
Man. I'm so
I hate that, dude. Like, we're
the same way. There must be 45 Big Ten schools. I feel like everybody gets matched up against one of them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, in this bowl, it has to be this conference, this slot, this conference. No, can we just fucking look at it and be like, what would be the most interesting games? And let's just match them up.
Just play the best games, yeah. Because they talk about when people travel. It's 2023, man. Anybody can get anywhere in a matter of hours at this point.
Stanford is now a part of the ACC. I don't want to hear anything about traveling.
Come on, man. We got to throw all that out the window. Let's just get the best matchups that provide the best games and the best environment for fans. Let's just do that. Can we not do that now? I know all y'all want your money. That's where the money's at.
Yeah, dude. Come on. Oh, man. Hey, who has a better chance of being bowl eligible, the Cougs or Clemson?
Oh, Cougs. I'd love to see y'all play that Clemson team.
I know, but I was sitting back like, man, Clemson might not be they might not be bowl eligible this season. That would be embarrassing. My Cougs might actually have a chance.
Y'all better watch out for any of you guys high on that Notre Dame train this week. Y'all better be real careful. Everybody's like, Notre Dame only giving Clemson 3. Clemson's garbage. Watch this. It's a money line win for Clemson. I'm telling you, I just got a feeling Clemson's winning this game straight up. I ain't decided if I'm putting it on the card yet, but I think Clemson beat Notre Dame straight up this week.
Ugh.
I know. It felt like I need to go brush my teeth again because it felt gross coming out of my mouth right there. But I'm pretty sure that Clemson has beat Notre Dame this weekend. That's what everybody